It's come to my attention that I have more OU battles saved up than any other tier of battles, which if it was somebody else it wouldn't be surprising or really a thing, but considering that it's me, somebody who doesn't play OU much or who didn't play OU much, I just find it really surprising. So that means I have to get some UU, RU, and NU battle, which hopefully I'll be able to do considering that I am feeling a lot better after my cold. I still got a bit of a stuffy nose, but nothing too bad. And yeah, just note I have enough OU battles saved up, so I'm probably going to pause the OU battles until I run out of my own recordings of OU battles. Anyways, I got a pretty good OU battle today using an RMT team. I'll leave a link to the RMT down in the description. Looking at threats on my opponent's side of the field, Latios and Gengar were really the only two things that we're going to have to watch out for. Also, Chansey might be a bit annoying, but I should be able to work around that. So expecting him to lead off with Ferrothorn, thinking I would want to lead off with a Powdon, I'm going to lead off with my Roserade. As he does lead off with the Ferrothorn, right off the bat I can go for the Sleep Powder because, as you can see from this team, it really does not like spikes. I'm able to hit the Sleep Powder, then get off a good amount of damage with the hidden power of Fire. As he ends up going for the Toxic, maybe thinking I would want to switch out because normally Roserades don't appear in OU, so I guess he really didn't know that some of them do tend to carry hidden power fire, which really wouldn't be a bad play on this part because, as I said, Roserade is really not seen in OU much. So after he gets up his rocks, I'm going to be able to take that out, which automatically tells me he doesn't have rocks on Chansey, so that's going to be some good information for later on in the battle because he might have like Soft Bold, Wish, Seismic Toss, and Toxic, or maybe Wish Protect, Seismic Toss, and Toxic, so I'm just going to have to watch out for that. Obviously, as he brings in the Infernip, I don't want to take a Flare Blitz, so I switch directly into my Jellicent, as he does make a very good play, predicts that, goes for the U-turn, as the U-turns out into one of his two biggest threats. Obviously, I don't want to take a Shadow Ball, even though the switch was too obvious. I just really need to keep my Jellicent around to be able to keep that Infernip at bay, as he knows that I am going to want to switch out. He's going to make a good play and actually go for the Substitute, as I can bring in my Roserade. And at the amount of HP that I'm at, being almost at max, I should be able to take at least one Shadow Ball. And looking at his damage, I will be able to take another one after I break his Substitute. Unfortunately, though, he gets his Pedef drop, so I'm thinking that, well, at this point, Roserade is dead to me. I managed to break his Substitute, and I, for some stupid reason, thought that at this point in the battle, my Sand was up. And you guys know where this is gonna lead up to, right? I really shouldn't have to explain it, but as I live the second Shadow Ball, I missed my Sleep Powder! Oh, I should have at least got up alert Toxic Spikes or gone for the Hidden Power Fire again. Yeah, that was really stupid. Anyways, hey, it's my Stoutland. What are you doing in here? Sand's not up. Why? Thankfully, he substituted. Because if he had gone for the Focus Blast, Latios and Gengar would have easily just plowed through my team. So, luckily for me, he went for the Substitute, as now I can just bring in my Hippowdon. I am specially defensive, so I should be able to take a Focus Blast, then maybe take a Shadow Ball, or I can always just switch out to something to take a hit from Gengar, and then hopefully go from there. Then Pursue Trap it with my Stoutland if he does knock out whatever I bring in. But he actually just ends up going for the Substitute. Obviously, scouting got to see what I wanted to do. This should be my perfect opportunity to get on my Stealth Rocks, as I do get them up. He is not going to go for the Shadow Ball. Obviously, my only offensive move is Earthquake, which, with Gengar having Levitate, it won't be affecting it or doing any damage to it. So, Whirlwind, obviously, there was the better play. Not to mention that Gengar behind the Substitute is really damn scary, so I had to get rid of that thing. As I Whirlwind him out to the Infernape, even if he does have the Hidden Power Ice, I should be able to take one, considering that I am specially defensive, as I said. So I'm just going to go for the Slack Off, see what he wants to do, as he ends up U-turning out into the Latios. Now, after the Slack Off, I am going to be at full HP, and I know from prior experience at full HP, I can't take one Specs Draco Meteor, so scouting it to see what he wants to do. I'm just going to stay in, and I'm going to go for the Slack Off, as he ends up going for the Surf. It turns out that he actually has the Life Orb, which is going to be some really good information, because now I don't really have to worry as much about this thing, because if he was Specs, this thing would just be destroying everything left and right. So Life Orb is kind of a bit easier to work around with, not to mention that with the Sandstorm up, I will definitely be wearing it down a whole lot easier. Not to mention that now I don't really have to Pursue Trap it and fodder off something on my team. But on the off chance that he did want to go for the Draco Meteor, I actually switched directly into my Latios for fodder. And I guess he predicted that, or predicted something like me to bring in my Skarmory or my Jellicent or my Latios, because he pulled a switch out to his Chansey, and normally Hippowdon would beat Chansey one-on-one because I can get off damage with Earthquake and just possibly whirlwind him out. So that was a really good play on his part. As I bring in my Skarmory on the off chance that he did go for the Toxic or the possible Thunder Wave, I know my Skarmory is easily the best Pokemon on my team to take both of those, as he just predicts that as well. Goes for the Psychic Toss. He's then going to go for the Wish. As his turn, I'm going to get up a layer of Spikes, as he makes another good play, predicts me to get up a layer of Spikes, and switches into his Gengar. Above that, he is going to be able to get the Wish recovery from the Chansey, which means this Gengar is back to being a giant pain in my ass. Which means I'm going to have to stay in. I really don't want him to get up a Substitute, so I'm going to go for the Whirlwind, as he predicts that too and goes for the Focus Blast. Oh my lord, can we please calm down? Not to mention that I Whirlwind him out into his other giant threat. So this turn, knowing that he more than likely would go for the Surf, I'm just going to switch into my Latias and hopefully bait him to go for the Draco Meteor, because I just really want him to knock out my Latias so I can get a free switch into my Stoutland and Pursuit Trap this Latios, even though I don't absolutely have to. That's just what I really wanted to do in this situation, but he knows that I'm trying to do this, so he's actually going to switch into his Chansey as I go for the Recover. I don't really know why I went for Recover. Honestly, I should have... Well, yeah, it really didn't matter what I went for, considering that I thought he was going to finish me off. So in the end, going for the Recover really isn't too big of a deal, as he brings back in the Chansey. Obviously, I can't do anything to the Chansey. Even if I did have the Substitute, eventually Chansey would beat me one-on-one, because he could just predict their own Substitute and Roost and Toxic me, and it would just really not be good for my Latios, considering that I really need to keep Latios around to be able to wear down that Latios. As I bring in my Skarmory, I believe it went for the Wish, because he's going to go for the Seismic Toss on my Roost. And on hindsight, well, in hindsight, sorry, maybe I should have gone for the Brave Bird, because I possibly could have taken him out. Then again, I also thought he would go for the Protect, so I thought Roost would be my optimal play to go for, but no, he predicts that, goes for the Seismic Toss. As next turn, I'm going to go for the Brave Bird, which really was stupid of me, because what I should have done is just got out my last 2 layers of Spikes, even though, yes, his only Pokemon affected by them are Chansey and Infernape. Still, being able to wear down both of those Mons would definitely be good for me. Unfortunately though, I made these stupid plays, and I just keep going for the Brave Bird after he gets off a good amount of damage with the Psychic Toss, and he's going to be able to gain his Wish, which means this thing is still at an easy like 70-80% HP. And this turn, the Roost is so painfully obvious that he's going to predict that, and he's going to bring in the Latios. And at this point, Latios is worn down so much that I'm pretty positive he's going to die off after this turn. So my best switch into this Latios is going to be my Latios, even if he does want to go for the Draco Meteor, predicting me to bring in Latios. From the looks of his team, Latios is really the least helpful thing to me on my team, not to mention that the only real thing I needed her for was to be able to be Death Fodder to this Latios or to the Gengar, to be able to Pursuit Trap one of those 2 Pokemon with my Stoutland. And with Latios gone, I can still keep Latios around for the Gengar. I just have to make sure that Gengar is not behind a Substitute when I do lose my Latios, so then I can knock him out with the Stoutland. As he brings in the Ments, the only reason he would ever bring in a Salamence on a Latios is if he was Scarfed, but on the off chance that he was like Dragon Dance and just bluffing the Scarf, I decided to stay in and go for the Dragon Pulse. As it does turn out that he's Scarfed, he's going to get the Moxie Boost. As I bring in my Skarmory, he's going to make a bit of an odd play, I guess, maybe thinking I would go straight for the Whirlwind. Then again, even if he did want to switch out, nothing on his team really wants to take 2 Brave Birds, or 1 for that matter, from my Skarmory. So I did just go straight for that, as this turn he's going to switch into his Chansey. And at this point in the battle, I wasn't really paying attention at how much HP the Salamence was at, because as you're going to see, it does die off to the rocks at the end of the game. But he's going to bring in the Chansey, as I go for the Roost. He is not going to go for the Wish after my Whirlwind, considering that he's going to be able to pass that off to something else on his team. As I Whirlwind him out into the Infernape, after all the hazard damage and the Sandstorm, I thought that he would be in Blaze range, and what I should have done this turn was just left in my Skarmory for Death Fodder. I don't really know why I switched out. I guess this is where me thinking that his Ments would live the rocks damage comes into play, as I bring in my Jellicent, because this thing is possibly in Blaze range. He's going to be doing a good amount of damage to my Jellicent. Luckily for me though, Sandstorm damage actually occurs before Wish Recovery, and Ape ends up dying off to the Sandstorm as he brings in the Gengar. I do not want to allow this thing to be behind a free Substitute, so I'm just going to go straight for the Scald. As he does go for the sub, obviously scouting out to see what I wanted to do, not to mention that maybe he did think I would want to switch out, so it really wasn't too big of a deal that he went for the Substitute. As his turn, I'm just going to leave in Jellicent for fodder, go for the Shadow Ball on the off chance that maybe he does want to go for the Disable, but no, he's just going to go straight for the Shadow Ball, as I can now get a a free switch into my stat line. I'm going to go straight for the pursuit, knock out the Gengar as it brings in the Chansey after all the hazard damage is going to die off to the pursuit, and Mence is going to die off to the rocks, and that's going to be the 3-0 victory in my favor. So yeah, that was definitely a fun, crazy game, and this is definitely a fun, good team that I recommend you guys to try out. Although this team is really weak to Sub, Roost, Honeclaws, Dragon Tail, Black Kyurem, it's still a pretty powerful team. Little inside joke between me and my boy Keo. And with that, guys, if you did enjoy this pretty good battle, make sure to leave a like, leave a comment. Enjoy the rest of your night, enjoy the rest of your day, and I am out of here. Later, everybody.